Wouldst thou come here to our fair town of Denby, thou Jack in the box, to overcome a good honest lad with vile, juggling tricks? Growled he in a deep voice, like the bellow of an angry bull. Take that then. And of a sudden he struck a blow at the youth that might have felled an ox. But the other turned to the blow deftly aside and gave back another so terrible that then the man went down with a groan, as though he had been smitten by lightning. When they saw their leather fall, the crowd gave another angry shout. But the stranger placed his back against the tent near which he stood, swinging his terrible staff, and so fell had been the blow that he struck the stout smith that none dared to come within the measure of his cudgel, so that the pressed crouched back like a pack of dogs from a bear at bay. But now some coward hand from behind threw a sharp jagged stone that smoothed the stranger on the crown, so that he staggered back, and the red blood gushed from the cut and ran down his face and over his jerkin. Then, seeing him dazed with this vile blow, the crowd rushed up on him, so that they overbore him, and he fell beneath their feet. Now it might have gone ill with the youth, even to the losing of his young life, had not Sir Richard come to his fair, for of a sudden shouts were heard, and steel flashed in the air, and blows were given with the flat sword, while through the midst of the crowd Sir Richard of the Lear came spurring on the white horse. Then the crowd, seeing the steel-clad knight and the armed man, melted away like snow on the warm heat, leaving the young man all bloody and dusty upon the ground. Finding himself free, the youth arose and, whipping the blood from his face, looked up. Quoth he, Sir Richard of the Lear, mayhap thou hast saved my life this day. Finding himself free, who art thou that knowest Sir Richard of the Lear so well? Quoth the knight. Methinkest I have seen the face before, young man. Yea, thou hast, said the youth, for men call me David of Dorchester. Ha, said Sir Richard, I wonder that I knew thee not, David, but thy beard hath grown longer, and thou thyself art more set in manhood since this day 12 months. Came hither into the tent, David, and wash the blood from thy face, and thou, Ralph, bring him straightway a clean jerkin. Now I am sorry for thee, yet I am right glad that I have had the chance to pay a part of my debt of kindness to thy good master Robin Hood, for it might have gone ill with thee had I not come, young man. So saying, the knight led David into the tent, and the youth washed the blood from his face and put on the clean jerkin. In the meantime, a whisper had gone around from those who stood nearest that this was none of other than that great David of Dorchester, the best wrestler in all the mid-country, who only last spring had cast stout Adam o' Lincoln in the ring at Selby in Yorkshire, and now held the mid-country champion belt. Thus it happened that when young David came forth from the tent along with Sir Richard, the blood all washed from his face, and his spoiled jerkins changed for a clean one, no sounds of anger were heard, but all pressed forward to see the young man, feeling proud that one of the greatest wrestlers of England should have entered the ring at Derby Fair. For dust flicker it a mass of men. Then Sir Richard called aloud, "Friends, this is David of Dorchester, so think it no shame that your Derby man was cast by such a wester. He beareth you no ill will for what hath passed, but let it be a warning to you how ye treateth stranger henceforth. Had ye slain him, it would have been ill and day for you, for Robin Hood would have harried your town as the keelstered harries the dovecote. I have brought the pipe of wine from him, and now I give it freely to you to drink ye list. But never harder after fell upon a man for being a stout yeoman." At this all shouted amen, but the truth they thought more of the wine than of the knight's words. Then Sir Richard, with David beside him and his men at arms around, turned about and left the fair. But in after days, when the men that saw that wrestling bound were bent with age, they would shake their heads when they heard of any steelwood game and say, "Aye, aye, but thou shouldst have seen that great David of Dorchester cast stout William of the Scar at Derby Fair." Robin Hood strode in the merry green woods with Little John and most of his stout yeomen around him, awaiting Sir Richard's coming. At least a glint of steel was seen through the brown forest leaves, and forth came the cover into the open road Sir Richard at the head of his men. He came straight forward to Robin Hood and leaped from off his horse, clasped the yeoman in his arms. "Why, how now?" said Robin, after a time, holding Sir Richard off and looking at him from top to toe. "Methinketh thou art a gayer bird than when I saw ye least." "Yes, thanks to thee, Robin," said the knight, laying his hand upon the yeoman's shoulder. "But for thee I would have been wandering in misery for a far country by this time. But I have kept my word, Robin, and have brought back the money that thou didst lend me, and which I have doubled 4 times over again, and so become a rich one more. Along with this money I have brought a little gift to thee and thy brave man from my dear lady and myself." Then, turning to his men, he called aloud, "Bring forth the packed horses." But Robin stopped him. "Nay, Sir Richard," said he, "think it not bold of me to cross thy bidding, but we in of Sherwood do not business till after we have eaten and drunk." Thereupon, taking Sir Richard by the hand, he led him to the seat beneath the greenwood tree, while others of the chief men of the band came and seated themselves around. Then quoth Robin, "How cometh that I saw young David of Dorchester with thee and thy man, Sir Knight?" Then straightway the knight told all about his stay at Derby, and of the happenings of the fair, and how it was like to go herd with David. So he told his tale, and quoth he, "It was this good Robin that kept me so late on the way. Otherwise I would have been here an hour ago." Then, when he had gone speaking, Robin stretched out his hand and grasped the knight's palm. Quoth he in a trembling voice, "I owe thee a debt I can never hope to repay, Sir Richard, for let me tell thee, I would rather lose my right hand than have such an ill befallen young David of Dorchester as seemed like to come up on him at Derby." So they talked until after a while one came forward to say that the feast was spread. Thereupon all arose and went to row. When at least it was done, the knight called upon his men to bring the packed horses forward, which they did according to his bidding. Then one of the men brought the knight a strong box, which he opened and took from it a bag and counted out 500 pounds, the sum he had gotten from Robin. Sir Richard, quoth Robin, thou wilt pleasure us all if thou wilt keep the money as a gift from us of Sherwood. Is it not so, my lads? Then all shouted, Aye, with a mighty voice. I thank you all deeply, said the knight earnestly, but think it not ill of me that I cannot take it. Gladly I have borrowed it from you, but it may not be that I take it as a gift. Then as Robin Hood had said no more, but he gave the money to Little John to put away in his treasury, for he had shrewd enough to know that naught breeds ill will and hard bitterness like gifts forced up on one that cannot choose but take them. Then Sir Richard had the packs laid up on the ground and opened it, whereupon a great shout went up that made the forest ring again, for lo, there were 10 bows of finest Spanish yew, all burnished till they shone again, and each blow inlaid with fanciful figures in silver, yet not inlaid so as to mar their strength. Besides were these 10 quivers of leather embroidered with golden thread, and in each quiver were a score of staffs with burnished heads that shone like silver. Each staff was feathered with peacock's plumes, knocked with silver. Sir Richard gave to each yeoman a blow and a quiver of arrows, but to Robin he gave a stout bow inlaid with the cunningest workmanship in gold. With each arrow in his quiver was knocked with gold. Then all shouted again for joy of the fair gift, and all swore among themselves that they would die if need be for Sir Richard and his lady. At least the time came when Sir Richard must go, whereupon Robin Hood called his band around him, and each man of the yeomen took a torch in his hand to light the way through the woodlands. So, when they came to the edge of the Sherwood, and the knight kissed Robin up on the cheek and left him and was gone. Thus Robin Hood held a noble knight out of his dire misfortunes, that else would have suffered the happiness from his life.